I'm sorry, our operating
Swiftcover.com. Car insurance without call centres.
A seventh victory in the San Marino Grand Prix for Michael Schumacher. Success for Ferrari, and for the first time this season, Renault have to settle for second place. But Fernando Alonso seemed to be catching Michael Schumacher through that second half of the race. Wasn't able to push home the advantage. Juan Pablo Montoya takes third for McLaren. Massa fourth for Ferrari. Then Kimi Raikkonen, Mark Webber and Jenson Button, after so many problems in the pits today, disappointingly back in seventh place. This is what it does to the Drivers' Championship. Not a great deal of damage to Alonso's challenge. 36 points. He leads. Michael Schumacher closes to within 17, but Alonso's still in charge of this championship battle. Kimi Raikkonen in third position for McLaren. And the Constructors' Championship, Renault still ahead of that by an 18-point margin from McLaren, with Ferrari in third. We'll get thoughts from Mark Blundell in just a few minutes, but Ron Dennis has just joined us. Your thoughts on that Grand Prix, how it was resolved and how McLaren performed in particular?
Well, I think first of all, Kimi's race was heavily hampered by his qualifying yesterday. He made a mistake, paid the price, would have been on the second row, and I think it would have been a different outcome. You could see a lot of traffic. I know he wasn't featured that much on TV, but he was really struggling with the traffic. But strategy, I think, did a good job for him. Nearly got Massa. True pace of the car not really reflected in the outcome, but we're a point closer to Renault. A lot better than we were this time last year. And of course, Juan Pablo, he did a good race. And I think we're comfortable to come away with two cars. We're still yet to have any problems with engines, and I think that's quite an achievement. We pushed very hard. New engines, the next Grand Prix, I think would be stronger and that bit more competitive.
But the headline, I suppose, no victory for Renault. Has anything changed really fundamentally about the season here today?
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit unusual to be happier to see a Ferrari win. I mean, that's a rare occurrence with me, I can assure you. But I mean, obviously, the Renault still had the pace to beat Ferrari, and the most important part for us is that meant the Michelins were capable of winning. Bridgestone's clearly had higher degradation, and a little bit surprised with Renault not out strategy, not having a better strategy. They could have easily won the race, I think, and we're happy they came second.
Ron, we're just seeing you looking at the Constructors' Championship points then. I mean, what goes on from this point onwards? You go back tomorrow. Explain to us where you now go, your train of thought.
Well, we know the car's going to be quicker at the next Grand Prix. We've tested the things that are going to come onto the car. I think actually Kimi could have outqualified Fernando. So I don't think we're far off the Renault pace, and we, of course, they'd be pushing too. It'd be a question of who gets the biggest lap time game before the Nürburgring. So it's Silverstone. We're really keen to have good weather at the Silverstone test this weekend. We will evaluate new engines, and I'm optimistic we'll come away with a much closer situation with Renault. We still see Renault as the competition.
Ron, thanks very much indeed. Let's get you straight now into that driver's press conference.
Thank you, Ron. Michael, it's been a while since we've seen you conducting the Italian national anthem on the podium. How does it feel?
Yeah, great. I mean, what else can you say? We had an amazing weekend. We've had a lot of work. We made some mistakes in the last race, very obviously, and to come here and perform the way we performed, although there was obviously in some moments some struggle, but in general over the weekend we were very competitive, and that's thanks to a lot of us, many partners to us, starting with Shell, who came up with a completely new fuel, some more horsepower, with Bridgestone working very hard on the tyre side, and obviously our team itself with new bits for the cars. Engine side, I mean, really a big push from everybody, and as you see, that's the result and paid out.
Great start from the pole, great first stint, and then it looked as if you had to work very hard to sustain the pressure from Fernando. What was the car like 2/3 of the race?
Yeah, it started off okay after my first pit stop, and then I went into some trouble. I don't know what it is. We obviously have to check the car, but there was some graining, but not a big issue, honestly. But the car never came back and never really performed to what it was doing in the beginning, and was quite a bit of a struggle. But luckily this year is a circuit where we know from another year, last year, that overtaking is almost impossible unless you make a mistake. So obviously you study who is behind, in that case Fernando, where is the moments where it could get critical, and you prepare yourself just for these areas, and it worked out.
And of course it was reversed from last year. What was the traffic situation like for you today?
Well, pretty good. I mean, no, I have no complaint. The guys did a good job out there.
Congratulations, Michael. A great win, a great comeback. Moving to you, Fernando. Looking very, very strong into that second stint there, sliced into Michael's lead and then just behind him for the rest of the race.
Yeah, it's true that I arrived quite quickly to him, but then, as Michael said here, we know it's difficult to overtake, near impossible, if there is no mistake. Michael didn't make any mistakes, so I just waited my opportunity, and at the end didn't come. But I'm happy. You know, we qualified with much more fuel than the others, obviously, and we saw in the race that was the right thing to do. In a normal circumstance, in a normal circuit, we should win the race. And also the second pit stop was not planned to do in that lap. We came much earlier just to try to overtake Michael. And didn't work. Maybe the opposite thing, to wait until my normal pit stop, maybe it should work better. But who knows? I think these 8 points is perfect for me. The second in the championship was Kimi and Fisichella, and I took another 4 or 5 points to them. So, you know, in championship-wise, it's a perfect result.
We saw you run a little bit wide coming out of the second chicane with 3 laps to go. What was the car like at that phase of the race?
Well, on the limit. I think Michael was very slow in the second stint, but not so slow in the third stint. I think the last set of tyres for them works, again, quite good. And it was not so easy to be behind him and to try to overtake. So I really pushed 5 laps to go just to try to overtake him, put all the revs in the engine, etc. I tried hard. When I saw that was not possible, I just went down a little bit. And as I said, it was a risk moment, and I think it was no time to risk anymore.
Thank you, Fernando. And Juan Pablo, congratulations to you. A strong drive after your problems in practice yesterday on Saturday, beating your teammate, of course, and Felipe Massa in the Ferrari.
I think it was good. You know, we had a really quick start, but I went into the inside of Fernando. He came up. You know, I think he went to try to pass the BAR, so I had to lift, and you know, I lost a couple of places there when I backed off. But you know, on and off, it was a really good race. I think we did a lot of work over the last couple of weeks, and I think we're going in the right direction. I think our qualifying performance wasn't as good as we expected. You know, as you see, we had a lot of fuel in the car as well, and I think it was good. You know, we passed a lot of people and everything, and I think we had a really good car, you know, to fight for the lead. But when I got to third, I was 13 seconds behind. There's, you know, what can you do? You're too far behind, and it was more of bringing the car home.
And the pressure from Felipe in those closing stages?
None. I was pretty much cruising, to be honest.
And we heard from Ron Dennis just a short time ago suggesting that he felt that this was a race that was very much there for the winning from the Renault point of view. What about the Honda point of view and Jenson Button? They must feel sick that they haven't finished on the podium. What happened in that second pit stop?
Well, this is one of the things that you have a nightmare over, and I think it's going to be a big nightmare for the team themselves. Unfortunately, the guy there with the signal, the lollipop as we will term it at this point, just releases it. He goes in there, look for the stop sign. At this point, Jenson is getting focused on when he needs to go. He gives it the release of the signal. Jenson makes his move, and the refueling equipment is still on there. The guys get mowed down. It's a big problem psychologically for Jenson. He knows that he may have hurt some of his personnel. He knows he's lost an amount of time, and the team within themselves now need to gather and get themselves back on track again.
And after that, there followed a long and earnest discussion within the team, I'm sure. It came at a point in the race where maybe Jenson was sensing opportunity, was a little bit anxious, was starting to sense the vulnerability of Michael Schumacher.
Well, I think he was starting to sense that there was a genuine opportunity to score some hefty points and be standing on that podium. And unfortunately, again, it hasn't turned up.
Jenson's inquest with the team, well, it came pretty well straight after, and we can only guess on the content of it.
Well, that's Alistair Gibson there on the right-hand side. He's the actual guy with the lollipop. They're having a discussion there. Jenson will want to know what went wrong. Alistair will actually be explaining to him. And it seems that maybe they just released it a little bit too early. He tried to recover. Unfortunately, they had the accident inside the pit. Lost a lot of time, lost a result.
OK, we can find out a little bit more ourselves now, because I think we can hear from Jenson right now.
Jensen, a lot for you to talk about with the team after that Grand Prix. Just tell us what happened in that pit stop.
Well, first of all, the first pit stop we had a wheel nut problem, and I lost probably 3 or 4 seconds. And then the second pit stop, Alistair, who's on the lollipop, lifted the lollipop when he thought that he saw the nozzle coming off. He must have seen the nozzle moving, or I don't know. But so I immediately reacted, as you should do, as soon as the nozzle moves, as soon as the lollipop moves, and I went, and everyone was still connected. So, and then when the fuel pipe's connected, it just takes all the mechanics with it because you can't get out of the way from it that quickly. So, these things get to 0 to 60 in just over 2 seconds. So the problem is, when you've realised, it's gone and everyone's on the deck. So it was a big issue. And then I sat in the pit lane waiting for someone to come to take the nozzle off. So. It lost us a podium, fighting for a podium, and the car was working well today. We did a great job, I think, with the strategy, and the car was working well. So it's disappointing, but I know that Alistair, the way he works, he will never do that again. He'll work his hardest not to make sure that doesn't happen.
It did really scupper your chances, as you say, of a good result, maybe a podium. But I suppose you can take away some positive things from this race. The pace was there today.
Yeah, but you can say that until the cows come home. It's. If you're quick and you don't get the result, it doesn't make any difference. It's a bit like McLaren last year when they had a very quick car and they didn't ever finish a race, at the start of the season. So we've got to start getting some results, and we know the pace is there, but it's not good enough to say it will come. We need it now. We need to start scoring some points and some podiums, and there was definitely a chance of a podium finish there. The car was running very strong, and I think we could have had Montoya.
Well, Jensen pretty calm and pretty forgiving there, which says a lot about the spirit within that team, but enormously disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, forgiving maybe, but I think his frustration is starting to show there. He knows that the car is good enough to get results of a high degree. He should have been standing on the podium today. He should have been third at least. And, maybe they didn't have the right strategy with 3 stops in comparison to those guys at the front there. But there is a car with great speed. They just need to get to the finish. Honda know it, Jensen knows it.
And he'd done everything right at the start in that first part of the race, hadn't he?
He did. He sat nicely there. He just put himself in a good position. He knew what the race was, and he knew what he had underneath him against Steve. But when you come into the pit and you have a problem like that, everybody has to take a degree of blame. Jensen's there. He makes a mistake now and again on the track. The team will know that. Now the team have made a mistake for him, and it's costly for him on the result side. But racing's like that. They'll be back next race and they'll be forgetting about that, and it's on again.
So it was left then for Renault and Fernando Alonso to try to overhaul Michael Schumacher, and Pat Simmons in the Renault pit gambled that they could do that on a surprise pit stop. Didn't quite work. Let's get Pat Simmons' view on that. He's with Ted Kravitz.
Well, Pat, you look annoyed, if not entirely surprised.
I don't think so. It's a reverse of last year, isn't it? We knew they were going to be hard to beat. We had to do something different. We pulled in early when we were being held up and tried to take an advantage on short fuel, but just weren't quite quick enough.
Yeah, just explain the thinking behind that second stop.
Well, we had fuel to go a little bit further, but of course we couldn't tell whether it was necessarily much further than them. In fact, our nozzle timings indicated it wasn't. So we just thought the best thing to do was try and get out of his slipstream.
But then Fernando wasn't quick enough on the outlaps to make the difference.
No, that's right. So we had nothing to lose and maybe a small chance to gain, so we took it.
What did you make of Ferrari's problems with the tyre issues? They were so slow in that middle stint.
Yeah, middle stint was really difficult for them. I was surprised how quickly we caught them. But yeah.
Did you think then you'd be able to win this one?
No, because we could see that we were going to catch them very easily, but wasn't convinced that we knew a way of getting past.
Just the way you can't overtake here, and were you saving something for the end as well?
Yeah, we'd certainly saved a bit on the engine to have a push at the end. Yeah.
But then Fernando made those mistakes. Can you explain that?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think only one, didn't he? So I don't think one mistake's too bad when you're pushing that hard.
As Pat Simmons, and now Luca Colliani can give us the Ferrari view. Great satisfaction, I'm sure, as a result of that win.
Fantastic. Winning this race in front of our home crowd with our employees, colleagues and the families here, it's fantastic. Congratulations to our opponents, who are very strong. But what Michael has done is really, really astounding.
But after a great start, what sort of doubts were starting to form in your mind in that middle section of the race? What did you feel was going wrong?
We need to understand better what happened. clearly we weren't fast enough. At the beginning of the stint, Michael was very good, even with fuel. But then, after a couple of laps, he was not able to keep the pace as before. Maybe he cooled the tires, and then in the end, he was able to pull away again and keep Fernando behind him. And the key point was the final lap, the in lap, where he got the advantage to be out in front at the exit of the pit stop.
Yeah, what was the feeling when he did get out in front? Because it was all a bit of a gamble on both sides, wasn't it?
Okay, it was good, but we spent the previous 5-6 laps with Alonso just behind us, so we knew that he could have tried again to overtake. So, and we had the experience of last year. This time was in reverse, so we were in front, Alonso was behind. But until Alonso made this small out of the track at the point, 2 laps to go, I think, we weren't really breathing, honestly.
Yeah.
It was very tough and tiring.
What does this change in terms of Ferrari's perspective on what the rest of the season holds?
I believe we showed since the beginning of the season we have a good potential. For a reason or another, we weren't able to show it everything. Mostly Malaysia because of engine, but Australia because of wrong tire pickup. And here we put everything in the same place, and the outcome is the victory. It's a great boost for the morale. We know that we have to work very, very hard together with Bridgestone, together with Shell, all the partners. We need to push, because if we want to catch up Renault and the others, we need to work harder than what we have done.
Well done, Ferrari, today. Thank you very much
Thank you.
indeed, Luca. We'll have more analysis of what's happened here at Imola today in just a few more minutes.
Sorry, please hold. But I'm only 50 yards from the line. Sorry, please hold. Sorry.
Swiftcover.com. Car insurance without call centres.
Michael Schumacher has won this San Marino Grand Prix ahead of Fernando Alonso. We've heard from both camps, Ferrari and Renault, that the whole result really depended on the final pit stop and the gamble that Renault took, which, Mark, for one moment seemed to have paid off.
It seemed to have paid off, but ultimately it didn't. And I think, as Alonso alluded to there in the press conference, that they actually made a little bit of a decision on the fly there, and it actually didn't seem to pull out where they wanted it to be. This is where you saw Schumacher coming into the pit. We all thought maybe Alonso was going to crack it here and overtake him out in the race circuit, but Schumacher just edges out in front of him, and it's the critical moment in the race. This is where it's won, even though Alonso tried and pushed as much as he could.
How much do you feel he was pushing? How much desire was there from Fernando for the race victory, as well as the points that were clearly going to come his way?
I think there's a lot of desire there for the guy to try and get by Schumacher. I mean, Schumacher's a big name. He's got all those championships behind him. Alonso wants to go and prove yet again that he's the best currently. And he would have pushed as much as he could. But to sit behind a guy for that long, you're going to have wear and tear on your rubber. You're going to have wear and tear on you as a driver. He started to make a few errors.
Yeah, a couple of moments, couple of mistakes in those closing laps, which really ended his challenge.
It did indeed. And you see a couple of times here, he runs straight onto the back of Schumacher. He's just diving in a bit deep into the Ravazza corner, just runs himself wide and just runs off the road yet again there on the exit of the chicane. It's just some small errors there. A lot of that down to the grip on the tyre. On the curb and spits him off, again loses valuable time. It's just the grip there. He's been chasing the Ferrari with Schumacher so hard. It's just losing that aerodynamic grip, uses up some of the energy on the rubber tyre there, and he just can't do nothing about that.
Yeah, the race started with drama. Christian Albers on the very first lap. Wow.
An unusual situation in some respects, because we don't often see a Formula One car roll over, but it wasn't through Albers' fault. It was actually Ide who came up the inside of him there and punted him and propelled the car over. 3 or 4 times. You see here, look, Ide climbs into the inside of his rear right wheel, and that just flips him over. Albers is a lucky guy, I have to tell you. When you roll over in an F1 car, your life's slightly in your hand, but when you go onto gravel, you're considering whether the roll hoop's going to dive into the gravel, then you've got no protection on your neck. Big problem.
But the testament to the belief, really, in the strength of Formula One cars these days. We remember what happened here in 1994, but even as you saw the accident unfold, there seemed to be no doubt he was okay.
Yeah, I think you know that the cars are very strong, and you just had that feeling that it wasn't a major deal, although, you know, looked spectacular. It's okay.
Okay, I think we can get a quick word from the Williams camp. Mark Webber is with Louise.
Mark, pretty solid result for you there today.
Yeah, a little bit of a surprise after our running on Friday. Last stint was hard. went wide at 14 on the second lap with a high fuel, stopping down into ruts. It's so bumpy on the brakes and just trying to stay on the limit. But apart from that, it was a pretty good race for us. The boys did a great job with the strategy. Stops work well. We learned a lot from the Bridgestone side of things. I mean, unfortunately, we're still doing a lot of learning in racing conditions, which is not ideal, but it's got a few points. I mean, if you look at who finished ahead of us, obviously there's no real attrition as much as far as I can see. So we've just got to find some more pace now and get working with Bridgestone a bit more.
Everyone's got to find a bit more pace. So where does the World Championship go from here in terms of the competitive nature? We're off to Nürburgring for the Grand Prix of Europe. Schumacher always performs well there, likes the circuit.
He does indeed. It's his home race in many respects. German going to Germany. Mercedes-Benz with McLaren will want to show there as well, and they feel that they've got something more to come, obviously. But Renault again will be strong. But, you know, for me, just watching there with Webber, I think they've done a good job today. I think they came through very solid with a great performance, and they want to try and build on it as well. Cosworth is starting to put some miles in there, and it's getting some progressive results.
And you wouldn't say it in front of Ron Dennis, but there's got to be more from McLaren sometime, isn't there?
He knows that. You know, that's at the end of the day there. We just saw him. He was watching those results there on the screen with us, looking at the Constructors' Championship. He knows he's slipping back slightly, but he also knows, because that's the tactical mind in him, where he needs to go next.
And sometime luck has got to favour Jenson Button, hasn't it?
Luck has got to favour Jenson Button, but now and again you have to make and break your own luck. And some things what go on like today in the pit, they're very, very costly, but they can regroup. They're a big team with some great names inside it. They're going to be okay.
Mark, thanks very much indeed. The next live motorsport here on ITV is in just a few minutes' time, with live coverage of the second round of the British Touring Car Championship from Mondello Park in Dublin. Stay tuned for that, and then highlights of this San Marino Grand Prix later this evening. Big night of football, of course, on Tuesday, the second leg of the Champions League semi-final. Can Arsenal preserve their lead against Villarreal? What a challenge that is. And on Thursday, the UEFA Cup semi-final live. Middlesbrough a goal down against Steaua Bucharest, but with every prospect of turning it round in that second leg. And the next Formula One, the European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. In 2 weeks' time, we will have our usual full live coverage with the race live at midday on Sunday, May the 8th. But Imola today has proved that you've got to get just about everything right in Formula One. And Michael Schumacher, well, he had his moments of doubt here in the San Marino Grand Prix today, but he's eventually delivered for Ferrari a much-needed and very emotional victory for all their fans. From everyone here at San Marino, bye-bye for now.
The pit lane is closed at the moment. What? The pits are open 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
SwiftCover.com. Car insurance without call centres.
For the latest news, gossip and video clips, visit itv.com/F1, sponsored by SwiftCover.com.